What happens when the world's richest man walks into the Pentagon for a private meeting? This isn't science fiction, this actually happened. Elon Musk, a tech mogul with billions of dollars in government contracts, was invited into the heart of U.S. military strategy discussions. And no, this wasn't a press event or a public forum, it was behind closed doors with no official explanation. When the news broke, questions exploded, but none hit harder than those from Congresswoman Jill Tokuda, who didn't just ask questions, she cornered Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and peeled back the mask on something far more dangerous than a simple meeting.
Here now recognizes the gentlelady from Hawaii, Ms. Tokuda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I agree we've had many performances today, but what we'd like is some answers. Mr. Secretary, did you invite Elon Musk for a briefing on war plans with China to the Pentagon? Yes or no is simple.
There's been a lot of hyperbole and incorrect reporting around that situation, but we did invite Elon over to come talk to us generally, but there was no war plans being discussed.
Okay, so whose idea was it to invite him to the Pentagon for a briefing? You mentioned you served at the pleasure of the president. Was it the president's will to have him come and be briefed?
Well, as you know, at that time, Elon Musk was leading up Doge efforts, and we've taken a great investment in Doge at DoD, and so getting his input on how we make DoD more efficient makes a great deal of sense.
Okay, but don't you think it's a conflict of interest for the world's richest man? Many of the contracts that the DoD is engaged in, billions of dollars of contracts going to his company, and he is, as to your point, was leading Doge, which was involved in cutting hundreds of contracts, but also becoming intimately aware of the platforms and the requirements that would be given out for new contracts. Did you not think it was a conflict of interest to invite someone with financial interests into the Pentagon to have firsthand knowledge of what they could then bid on for their own, enrichment?
Ma'am, it was just an informal discussion, but I'll tell you, anyone that knows our Defense Department knows we show no preference to any company other than what your capabilities are, and we're grateful for the places where his companies benefit our national defense.
So for a $280 million donation, the world's richest man with companies intimately linked and involved in billion-dollar contracts with the Department of Defense gained access into the Pentagon. So would you say that any company right now that has multi-billion-dollar contracts with the Department of Defense has access to the Pentagon right now? 1-hour briefings with you personally?
On the regular basis,
the answer
I
is
meet with many people and many different companies and many different aspects of our defense industrial base to ensure we have the best possible capabilities. It would be imprudent to do
Well, I'm
otherwise.
sure for an investment of $280 million, Elon's investors are quite happy that it's come out into the billions. I want to jump questions right now. Mr. Secretary, on January 6, 2021, rioters and looters attacked federal law enforcement officials, vandalized and destroyed federal government property, and caused an estimated $2.7 billion in damages right here at the Capitol. Would you have sent the National Guard and the Marines in on that day?
Well, unfortunately, President Trump requested the National Guard in advance, and that was...
It took him quite a long time. I'm asking you, as Secretary of Defense, would you have sent in the National Guard and the Marines on that day? We had 140 Capitol Police officers injured. One died the next day. Would you have sent in the National Guard and the Marines?
As I said, President Trump directed National Guard to be there in advance.
And I think you can look at the record of how long it actually took for him to actually send them in. But it's good to hear that it sounds like you would have sent in the National Guard and the Marines on that day in which the insurrection was taking place right here at the Capitol. Mr. Secretary, during your confirmation hearing, you failed to deny the conclusion that you would carry out an order to shoot protesters in the legs. So let me be direct. Given what we are seeing across the country right now, would you carry out or issue an order by the president for our military to fire upon protesters actively engaging in their civil right to exercise free speech, their First Amendment rights? Would you give that order from the president?
I assume you're insinuating what's going on in Los Angeles, and I wouldn't call
Not just
that a
Los
peaceful
Angeles.
protest.
If we take a look at protests throughout the country, it's a simple question. If directed by the president, would you order our military to fire upon protesters? Simple yes or no.
Ma'am, we have, as you know, and as this committee knows, we have standard rules of engagement that are in place that give guidance to our troops, and they abide by them.
I'm asking what you would do. Again, you said you serve at the pleasure of the president. Is that not true?
I do serve at the
So
pledge.
if the president told you to shoot people in the legs, would you do so? Now, you failed to answer this question as well in your confirmation hearing when asked by members of the Senate.
Because I refuse to accept a false hypothetical that's attempting to put me in a corner and make it look like a
At
representation.
a time when we have more Marines and National Guard in Los
engagement and they are
Angeles than
followed.
we do in Syria and Iran alone, I don't think this is a hypothetical. This is an actual situation that we are dealing with right now. So again, I will ask the question, the last 14 seconds I have, would you order our military to shoot at their fellow countrymen if ordered by the president?
I think it's interesting that for 4 years, insurrection was the left's
I think we
favorite
know your
word,
answer. Thank you, Mr.
and that
Chair. I
when
yield
it's
back.
invoked in L.A., they were
Gentlelady yields back. Gentlelady's time's expired.
Let's be clear, Elon Musk wasn't just swinging by to shake hands. Reports surfaced suggesting he was briefed on war strategy with China. That's not just unusual, it's unprecedented. The military's response: they claimed it was a general discussion and no war plans were shared. But the moment the words "we invited Elon" came out of Hegseth's mouth, the silence said more than the denial ever could. Because here's the real question: why was he even there? Was it the president's idea? Was it pushed by defense contractors? Hegseth danced around the answers, but Tokuda wasn't having it. She went straight to the point. Did the president request this meeting? Was it his will to bring Musk into the room where war strategies are shaped? Suddenly, we weren't just watching a hearing, we were watching a showdown, and the mask started slipping. This wasn't just about one meeting. It was a glimpse into a growing alliance between unchecked corporate power and military leadership. Elon Musk's companies, SpaceX, Tesla, and others, aren't just civilian operations anymore. They're deeply embedded in U.S. defense infrastructure. Rockets, satellites, surveillance tech, you name it. And now apparently access to military briefings. Hegseth tried to deflect, saying the conversation was informal, that Musk was helping the Pentagon become more efficient through his role in something called the DOGE initiative. But Tokuda didn't let go. She laid it out clearly: this man has billions in defense contracts. He's been involved in shaping requirements for future platforms, and now he's inside the Pentagon, gaining first-hand access to information he could later use to bid for more contracts. That's not innovation, that's a textbook conflict of interest. Let's put this in perspective. A $280 million investment from Elon's companies has now turned into billions in contracts, and the justification the Pentagon gives for his access: that he's already making money off the war machine. That's not a defense. That's the problem. Because when influence becomes a ticket to the war room, democracy doesn't just get threatened, it gets sold. Tokuda called it what it is: institutional capture. When public policy and national security decisions are shaped, not by elected leaders or military strategy, but by the financial interests of billionaires, we've crossed a line, a dangerous line, and it gets worse. Just when you think the conversation couldn't get more intense, Tokuda hit with the ultimate question. January 6th, a violent attack on the Capitol, law enforcement overwhelmed, millions in damages, over 140 officers injured, and the military response: delayed, chaotic, confused. Tokuda didn't ask about blame. She asked something far deeper: would Hegseth have sent in the National Guard and Marines that day? He didn't answer directly. Instead, he deflected to President Trump's timeline and claimed the Guard had been requested. But the truth is, that wasn't the real test. The real test came moments later. She asked if he would ever follow a presidential order to use military force against protesters, peaceful ones, exercising their First Amendment rights, not rioters, not extremists, citizens. Would he give the order to shoot Americans in the legs, as Trump once allegedly suggested? And in that moment, Hegseth froze. He didn't say no, he didn't say yes. He gave a rehearsed line about rules of engagement and standard procedures, but what he didn't give was clarity. And that silence, that hesitation, that's what should terrify every American. Because when a military leader can't say he'd refuse to fire on peaceful citizens, the danger isn't theoretical, it's real. This wasn't a hypothetical. The National Guard was deployed against protesters in Los Angeles, in New York, in Washington, D.C. We've seen scenes of tanks on American streets, rubber bullets, Tear gas. What Tokuda asked wasn't just relevant, it was essential, because the Constitution doesn't bend depending on who's in office. It's meant to be the wall that protects the people from unchecked power. But when that wall starts to crack, when private contractors sit in on strategy meetings, when military officials won't say no to illegal orders, what's left? The answer came just a few seconds later, when another representative quickly changed the subject. The question disappeared. No follow-up, no outrage, just silence. And that silence was everything, because when a system starts to fear the truth, it stops asking questions. And when it stops asking questions, it becomes something else entirely. This wasn't just about Elon Musk, this wasn't just about January 6th, it was about loyalty, whether to a billionaire, a political figure, or the Constitution. And in that hearing, it became painfully clear, some people still don't know where their loyalty lies. So what do you think? Should billionaires be allowed inside military briefings? Should generals be required to say no to unlawful orders? Or have we already normalized something we should all be screaming about? Let us know what you think in the comments. Smash the like button if this video opened your eyes, and don't forget to subscribe. Because the next one, we're diving even deeper into the shadows of American power.